How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Gianluca and I'm a second year medical student studying in Canada. And for those of you that don't know, I'm also the first person in my family that decided to go to medical school. Now, because of that, I remember having a ton of questions back in undergrad about the whole medical profession and the process of going to medical school. I had so many questions, so I tried my best to find different people to ask these questions to. I would ask my friends that claimed to have brothers or sisters or parents that were doctors. I remember asking school guidance counselors, basically anyone that I could talk to that seemed to know a little bit about medicine at the time. And I don't think this is a bad thing. If you have these questions back in undergrad or even before, it's in your best interest to seek these people out and figure out some of these answers as soon as possible. The only problem though is that some of these pre-med advisors have no idea what they're talking about. I've definitely gotten more than my fair share of bad advice back in the day, so recently I decided to put up a poll on my Instagram page asking people for the worst advice that they've ever gotten from their pre-med advisors. So today we're going to be debunking the top 5 worst pieces of advice that I've ever heard. Bad advice number 1 is that you should absolutely avoid the traditional pre-med degrees in terms of taking an undergrad. Things like biology, chemistry, biomed. You shouldn't do these courses because they're too cookie cutter and the medical school adcoms won't like it. They prefer people that come from non-traditional backgrounds. Now, this one has been making its rounds for a long time, and to be honest, I remember hearing about it myself back in undergrad. The thought process here is that there are so many applicants every single year that you need to try your hardest to stand out amongst this big crowd of applicants. And what better way to do it than to purposely take an undergrad that's totally unrelated to medicine, and that way when you show up and present your application, you stand out amongst all these other crowds of pre-meds. The only problem though is that when we look at the people that actually do get into medical school, the successful applicants coming from a traditional pre-med background largely outweigh those that come from a non-traditional background by like orders of magnitude. And while there are definitely students that do get into medical school from a non-traditional background, I personally don't think that you should decide on what undergrad to take just based off of shock value when it comes to your medical school application. The fact remains that pre-interview for your medical school application, the 3 most important things are your GPA, your MCAT, and your extracurriculars. And you should go ahead and choose your undergrad program based on whichever one you think is going to help you maintain the highest GPA, get the best MCAT score, and then also allow you for a good amount of opportunities to pursue some extracurriculars. Bad advice number 2 is literally just switch careers. Don't do it. I'm sorry guys, and I know I laugh a little bit when I read that out loud. Could you imagine being a student, super confused, you're just looking for some answers, someone to help you out, and you finally find someone in this mentor role, you ask them a few questions and they just give you such a crappy answer? And let's not get this twisted. Getting into medical school is hard. If you're a Canadian student, the estimation that gets thrown out there is between 10 and 20%. If you're an American student, the numbers that I see are somewhere around 40 to 50%. By any stretch of the imagination, it's not something easy to do. But just because something is difficult doesn't mean that it's impossible. Some of the best things in life are actually difficult to do, but that doesn't mean that you should give up on them altogether. As you go through your pre-med years, if you ever have someone that tells you something like that with no explanation behind it, be respectful, say thank you, but then just move on. If this is something that you've already decided that you want to do, you want to go to medical school, and you're not going to stop at anything to get there, you are much better off talking with someone that's going to help you structure a plan to try and get in and do things that are difficult, rather than just talk to someone that's going to tell you to give up before you even got started. Bad advice number 3 is that if you don't have at least a 3.9 GPA, then you shouldn't be applying to medical school, period. Now this one's actually very difficult for me to debunk because normally I like to fall back and have some real statistics to back me up here. But when you look at things, especially on the Canadian application side of things, you have schools like U of T that average a 3.96 GPA across all their accepted students. And even across all the other schools, you see some very, very high average GPAs. The best piece of advice that I could give everyone watching this video right now is that the road to medical school is made so much easier if you just go ahead and keep your GPA as high as possible. It's unfortunate, but it's true. But for those of you that don't have the highest GPA, let me go ahead and provide just a little bit of hope and some reason why you definitely should be applying, even if you don't have an average GPA that meets the averages of everyone else. When I got accepted into medical school, I got accepted on my very first try with a GPA that was much lower than the average of the school that I applied to. I actually got in with a 3.63 GPA on my very first try, and while I understand I'm probably the exception to the rule in this case, if you have a GPA that's a little bit lower, you just have to go ahead and make up for it with an amazing MCAT, some amazing extracurriculars, and a strong positive trend in your GPA. In my 4th year of undergrad, I actually averaged a 3.93 GPA across all my courses, and then I stuck around for a 5th year and averaged a 4.0 across all of my courses. So if you don't have the most competitive GPA right now, fix it in whatever time that you have left and apply. If your GPA is even slightly competitive, apply, because the only thing thing that you're gonna lose is the cost of your application. Bad advice number 4, and this is one that I got all the time back in undergrad. You should just go down to the Caribbean for medical school. Don't even try to get in state or in country. Go down to the Caribbean. It's so much easier and everything's gonna work out fine. I don't know why everyone keeps saying that it's so easy to go down to medical school in the Caribbean. So to start off, the fact of the matter is that many of these international medical schools are for-profit organizations, which means that they want to take in as many people as possible, collect all of that money, sometimes to the tune of 400,000 American dollars for 4 years of education. And for that reason, they do take a lot of students with low GPAs and low MCAT scores. So yeah, is it easier to get into medical school if you're going to one of these international programs? Yes, definitely yes. But the problem is that the easy part stops there. Once you're actually in medical school, if you are looking to get back into a Canadian or an American residency, it is much more competitive for these internationally trained students. In Canada, for example, well, the average match rate of Canadian graduates in Canada is somewhere in the high 90s, around 97%. For those coming back from an international medical program, it's somewhere in the 60s, the match rate. So you see, there's a large difference in trying to match after medical school for those people that are trained internationally. On top of that, I have a few friends that did go down to international programs. They're brilliant, and there's a reason for that. They have to absolutely bust their butt in terms of getting great marks on all the entrance exams and really working to outshine, outcompete all of their other classmates in order to secure a residency spot. Always remember the stuff you learned on the MCAT, guys. Energy is always conserved. If you choose to go down to a Caribbean medical school, it's going to be easier for you to get in, but in the long run, you're going to have to put in just as much work, maybe even more, to get that spot that you want in residency. And now finally, guys, bad advice number 5 is actually a list. I have a whole list here. I had so many of these responses on my Instagram. I can't get around to them all, but we're gonna do a lightning round really quick. The first one is that you absolutely need someone in your family to have been a doctor first in order to get into medical school here in Canada. And I mean, I guess I'm an example that that's not the case. The next one is that you absolutely have to take the MCAT for the first time in your second year. I don't think that's true. I would actually recommend that most students take the MCAT for the first time in the third year, and I've talked about that in previous videos before. Oh, the next one is that you can't get into medical school if you didn't go to a prestigious university for undergrad. I went to Ryerson University for my undergrad. That is by no means a prestigious undergrad university. And again, I did get in. I also had friends that got into many different medical schools, so I don't think the prestige has a large impact on your application. The next one is that you absolutely need research to be accepted. And I know for sure that this is not the case. I have many friends that had no undergraduate research and still got accepted into medical school. I think that it does help a lot for your application, but it's not the end all be all of who gets accepted and who doesn't. And then finally, the last one that I have over here for the lightning round is if you fail one course, it's over. And I mean, this one's tricky because I definitely don't recommend that you purposely go out and fail courses, but a lot of the times if you fail a course in your first year or your second year, here in Canada, there are many schools that will actually get rid of at least one entire year of study if it was in the earlier part of your academic career. Or there are some schools that will only look at your best 2 years, if we're looking at Western University, or your last 2 years, if we're looking at Queen's University. There are definitely ways around it, and while failing a course is not ideal, it shouldn't be the end of your medical school dreams. But anyways, guys, that's going to be the entire video for today. Like I said before, there are going to be a lot of people out there that give you some really bad advice in your pre-med years. And I think that it's great to go ahead and seek out mentors, people that do consider themselves knowledgeable on the topic, but do just keep in mind that these stats are changing all the time. There are doctors that I talk to that to this day say that if they had to go ahead and apply to medical school again, first of all, they would have no idea what the criteria actually are. And second of all, many of them think that they wouldn't be accepted under today's standards. So always make sure that if you are getting pre-med advice from other people, make sure they're qualified, make sure they know what they're talking about. But above all, go ahead and do your own research as well to back up some of these claims that other people are saying before just taking what you hear at face value and then going later on and telling that to other people. We're just perpetuating this cycle of bad information to pre-meds, and I want that to stop here with these videos. Hopefully this one helped you guys out. We'll see you all in the next one. Everyone take care.